Hi judges, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about parliamentary debate, which is the most typical form of debate we do at the practice space. So what is parliamentary debate? Parliamentary debate is 2 versus 2. So it's a pro team versus a con team. And they're debating about different types of issues. It's a spontaneous type of debate, meaning that every round they get a new topic and they only get 20 minutes to prepare on their side, which is actually assigned to them. So they don't actually get to choose if they're pro or con. They get those 20 minutes to prepare with their teammate, and then they go into the round. So what topics do they debate? The first is sometimes they get a round where there's a fact topic where they are trying to prove whether something is true or false. So cats are better than dogs, true or false? Second type of topic is a value topic, and that's something where they're saying whether something is right or wrong, or whether something should be valued over another thing. So liberty should be valued over equality. And then finally, they have policy debates, where they actually are arguing whether or not they should ban something or invest further in something, and they're creating a plan and they're arguing about which plan is better. So you don't need any background knowledge in any of these types of topics. Their job as debaters is to make things as clear for you as possible. Sometimes even when I'm judging around, I don't really understand what the debaters are talking about. Sometimes they're speaking really quickly and they're going too fast and they're using a lot of jargon. Now it's the debater's job to make things clear. So if you are confused, write that down and make that note in your feedback and comments so that they can improve for next time. So what does parliamentary debate look like? So the first 2 speeches in parliamentary debate are opening constructives. And so an opening constructive or an opening speech is where the students are offering what's called contentions. A contention is an argument that they're supporting with evidence and with examples. So one speaker actually offers all of the different arguments for their side. So the first speech is about 7 minutes in length, and it's one of the speakers on the pro team, or what's known as the government team in parliamentary debate, and they offer all their contentions. Now, in the next speech by the con speaker or the opposition, they actually get to offer their points, so their case, but they also have to argue against the other side, all in the same 8 minutes. So again, first speech is 7 minutes, next is 8 minutes. The next part of the debate is what's called the line by line, the responses. They're actually going through and they're trying to argue everything off the top of their head. So this is a different speaker. The pro team or government team, their second speaker goes through and they defend their arguments one by one, and they also argue against the other side one by one. The con speaker or the opposition does the exact same thing. So they argue the other side and they defend their side line by line. Now the final 2 speeches, and those are both 8-minute speeches. The final 2 speeches are known as closing rebuttals. That's the closing statement where they get to tell you their voting issues, why you should vote for them. So the con speaker or opposition goes first, and they mention their voting issues, and they're not allowed to say any new arguments in these closing speeches. Finally, the pro team or government team has their final speech, 5 minutes in length, where they're offering their final voting issues. So you'll have a little cheat sheet that has all of these different types of speeches, but basically there's 6 speeches total, between 7 to 8 minutes in length for the first 4 speeches and 4 to 5 minutes in length for the last 2 speeches. Now, throughout, a few other little pieces of jargon that are important for you is you might hear what's called a point of information. Students can raise their hand in any of the first 4 speeches, and their opponent can call on them to let them ask their question. And it's up to the student to figure out whether they're going to call on that question or not. The last 2 speeches are protected time. No questions can be asked during that, but they can bring up what's called a point of order. Most typically, students will bring up a point of order if they think that someone's bringing up a new argument in those last 2 speeches, and they're basically protesting to say that the rules have been broken. Now, as a judge, especially as a new judge, you might be kind of worried because it's like, oh, I don't really know the rules. I don't know if they got broken. In those moments, your magical phrase is, I'll take it under consideration. So just listen to them and just say, I'll take it under consideration. And then the student feels like they're heard. And you can ask any other questions once you exit the round and you're trying to figure out how to make your decision. So when we're judging, we want to make sure we take as many notes as possible because that's a long round. It's more than 40 minutes in length. And so you want to make sure that you are writing down the basic arguments that are mentioned in the debate. And you don't have to write down everything, just write down a couple of things. And there's a style of note-taking called a flow. And that's basically where you take a piece of paper and you're drawing little columns, one column for each speech. And the reason it's called a flow is because you write down the arguments and then you draw a little arrow to go and write down the response to that argument, and an arrow with a response to that, and an arrow with a response to that. So you see the whole flow of the arguments, and it also allows you to see what arguments have been dropped along the way. And so you, as a judge, you want to vote based on, first, what is most persuasive in the final speech? What voting issues are really helping persuade you? And then finally, which arguments have really extended across the entire flow? There might be an argument from the very opening speech that you're like, that was amazing. But if they didn't bring it up in the final speech, you can't really consider it. You have to consider the extended arguments all the way across the flow. And you want to make sure that they're supporting those arguments and they're saying it in a really persuasive and clear way for you to decide. So I really like it when a student in a closing speech says, here are all the things that got covered. This is what's important. This is less important. And then it makes it really easy for me to make my decision. And that's ultimately the debater's job. So good luck on your next parliamentary debate judging. It gets easier with time, especially with clear note-taking. So good luck.